This video is a part of the A to Z series of Python language where I go through all the built-in functions of Python starting with letter D, with a description of how to use them. The imported library functions and classes are written using these built-in functions only. So you can consider this as a foundation of the entire Python language. If you have landed directly on this video, you can check out the entire playlist in the iCard above or through the link in the description. Otherwise, watch this video till the end as I will also give real project examples where these functions might be useful wherever I can. My name is Aditya Shenoy from Brainy Things, where I make programming simple and fun. YouTube statistics show that a small percentage of you who watch my videos are actually subscribed to this channel, so if you end up liking this video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind in future. The first function is the delete attribute function. This function takes two parameters, the object and the string of its attribute that we want to delete. To demonstrate this, I will create a class, my class. I will initialize a class attribute string. I will name it as Python. I will also initialize a function getString, which will be again a class function because it is not involving the self keyword, and I will just return a string, say hello. Now if I try to access these attributes like this, or the function my class dot get string, then I will get the two strings back, that is the Python string and the hello string. So if I want to delete these attributes, I can do this by calling the delete attribute function like this, and the first parameter will be the my class object because we want to delete attributes of these class, and the second parameter is a string in which we will pass the name of the attribute. In this case we will pass string, and if I try to run this cell, it says that my class.string, my class has no attribute string because we have deleted the string after we have created it. So we need to delete this, and it just returns hello. To delete the function, we can copy this line and convert it to my string. I'm not using a parenthesis like this because we just need to pass the function name, and it will again lead to attribute error. My class has no attribute getString. So in this way we can delete attributes of any object or a class very easily, and there is a shorthand version available to do this same thing. So we can use the delete keyword my class dot string like this and like this. It will return the same output like before, so we cannot access the function or the class variable anymore. So these are just two different approaches that we can use to delete attributes. This function is useful if you want to free up memory space of the program in a more controlled way, or for some application where you want to delete attributes of an object. The next function is the dict function or the dictionary function, which returns a dictionary data structure. If we don't pass any parameter to this function, it will return an empty dictionary like this. If we pass keyword arguments to this function like this, a equal to 1, b equal to 2, c equal to 3, then the name of the parameter will be initialized as key inside a string, and values of these parameters will be assigned to the values of the corresponding keys inside this dictionary. You can also pass this curly bracket notation of the mapping inside the dictionary function to construct a dictionary. So I will copy this and paste it inside the dictionary function, and it will still return me the same output. But this is very rare because technically you are passing a dictionary inside a dictionary function to return the same dictionary, so that doesn't make any sense. You can also pass a mixture of mapping and keyword arguments like this. So I will copy the above line and paste it over here. So along with the mapping, I will also add one more keyword argument like this, d equal to 4, and it will include both the mapping elements as well as keyword arguments inside the final dictionary. As you might have guessed, you can initialize a dictionary using this curly bracket notation literal directly. So if I paste this, it will still return me a dictionary. So you can store it in a variable or just print it like this. There is one more way you can construct a dictionary. So if you have an iterable, which can be a list, a tuple, or any other data structure that can be looped upon, and if this iterable contains two value elements like this, a1, b2, c3 like this, then the first value of this tuple will be initialized as the key and the second value will be initialized as the value corresponding to this key like this. Just like the previous case, you can pass a mixture of the iterable as well as the keyword arguments like this, and it will add both the iterable elements as well as the keyword argument elements to the final dictionary. Inside this iterable, if you pass more than or less than two values like this, suppose I pass a 3 value tuple as the first element in this iterable, then it will lead to a value error. Dictionary update sequence element has length 3, 2 is required. So it knows that there is an error because it requires just 2 elements and you are passing it 3 value tuple. Dictionaries are a very powerful data structure. It allows lookup of a value in a constant time, which makes this data structure a favorite choice when we are optimizing an algorithm for time. If you want to see how dictionaries can be used in dynamic programming, you can check the dynamic programming videos in the iCard above. The next function is the dir function, that is dir. I will use the command prompt interactive shell to demonstrate this, as notebook files add extra variables and modules for its own working, which is unnecessary for us now. For this example, when we call it without arguments like this, it will return all the names that are present in the current local scope. So if I add one more variable, say a equal to 5, and then call dir function again, you can see that the a variable is now present in the list of names that are returned by the directory function. Now you might wonder where all the built-in functions are, because they are also available in this code. So if you see here, there is a module called built-ins. So when we call a function like this directory function or any other built-in functions, Python first checks whether it is present in the local scope, and if it is not, then it will check inside the built-ins module. That means you can easily override the functionalities of the built-in functions. But what all variables and functions are available in a particular module, you might want to query. You can again use directory function for this. This time you will pass the module name you want to enlist all the variables and functions of. For example, I want to see what names are present in the scope of built-ins module. So I will pass double underscore built-ins double underscore inside the directory function, and I get a very big list like this. It includes all the classes of errors and the constants and all the functions that are available inside this built-ins module. You can also pass custom classes to see what names are available in their scope. So to demonstrate this, I will again create a custom class, my class, and initialize a string, initialize a function, and if I pass the my class inside this directory function, it will give me a list of default functions or names that are initialized by Python itself. So As you can see, there is no constructor, that is init function inside this, but Python has created this function for us along with all the other functions that you can see here, along with two modules or two names that we have created here. So what if you want to control what names are returned by the directory function when you pass an object of your custom class? For that, you have to override the double underscore directory double underscore function and return a list of strings that you want to return via directory method. So I will initialize it over here, double underscore dir, as it is an object method. So I will pass self keyword and I will return a list of two strings, that is string and get string, like this. So when I pass a object and not the class inside this directory function, I will get a list, get string and string that I just initialized over here. As you can see, the order has changed because this list that is returned is sorted alphabetically. This function is very useful when you are exploring new Python libraries and you want to see what all functions, constants and classes these libraries provide. The next function is the divmod function. This function takes two parameters which will be numeric and non-complex. For example, if I pass 13 and 5 like this, it will return me a tuple of two values, that is quotient and remainder. This method ensures that the divisor, that is 5 into the quotient plus the remainder, is equal to the dividend over here. As you can see, it is equal to 13. For floating point values, this value might be slightly inaccurate because of the floating precision errors, but Python tries that this value is as close as possible. The sign of the remainder is the same as the divisor. So if you pass a negative value like this, it will return this. And once you have the remainder, dividend and divisor, the quotient is calculated normally using this equation. This function is useful when you are working with both quotient and remainder of a number. So these were all the built-in functions that start with letter D. If you ended up liking this video, please press that like button, comment any feedback that you have for this video or this channel, share this video with your friends. The code that I write in all my videos of this channel is available in my GitHub profile, whose link is in the description. You can connect to me via LinkedIn, whose link is again in the description, and I will see you in the next video.